Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Ben Hayes, best bet of the month, only $10 when you use VSiN Ben90 at checkout. Pick will be released at 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific, 5-0 with his daily best bets. And use VSiN Ben90 at checkout, promo code to get it for $10. Get up there now, winners and whiners, and the pick will be coming at noon Eastern.
All right, let's continue this college football discussion as the great Pat Forde joins the program, Sports Illustrated, the College Football Inquirer podcast as well. Pat, thanks for the time. I was listening to the podcast last night, so I know what you and Wetzel think about this tweet from Braden Keith at SwimSwam. According to a source, North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia are all negotiating to join the SEC. ESPN is trying to avoid their TV deal with the ACC. Can you explain to our audience what you think of that report?
Yeah, well, I know Braden, nice guy, does a good job with the SwimSwam website covering swimming, the sport that only I care about. But let me just say that I had people in the involved conferences in his tweet sending me really amused texts yesterday, like, "Oh, really? This is happening, huh? And we're going to let SwimSwam break it, huh?" So I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that. I do not think that the ACC is in imminent demise and that the SEC is imminently ready to poach them of 4 schools.
Okay.
All right.
As a guy who covers and loves college football and college basketball, how do you feel about this? I mean, who even knows how many conferences we'll have when the TV deal's up?
Yeah, it's depressing. It's infuriating. It's insulting, I think, to what really most of the fans want. Fans don't root for revenue for their schools.
Yeah.
They root for their teams to win. They want to have rivals who they know who they are, that are neighbors. They want to be able to jump in the car on a Friday and drive to a road game on a Saturday. They want to go to the office or a school or something and talk smack with people that went to the rival school. You can't do any of those things when you are in Los Angeles and the rest of your league is either on the East Coast or the Upper Midwest. It doesn't work. And so I just think you're losing. We just are steadily eroding most of the things that have made college football fun and appealing. And, I just think that if the answer is always just to shrug and say, because revenue, then I think that's a very short-sighted, self-serving, narrow-minded answer that is, again, we got to look out for ourselves and nobody cares about the sport as a whole.
No, that is a great answer. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, you summed up the state of this, of NCAA right now. So then what do you think is next, though? Like, what's going to happen with teams or programs like Oregon and Washington? Where do you think Stanford goes? Where do you think Notre Dame ends up? Are the latter two there tied together possibly?
Yeah, fascinating, really, those dynamics with the Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever you want to call it, whether it can stay together. Oregon and Washington absolutely would go to the Big Ten by noon today if they could. The Big Ten has clearly put the brakes on that. The belief is that they are mostly interested in Notre Dame. I don't think there's any question about that. But then the issue is Notre Dame really doesn't feel compelled to do anything right now. And so if Notre Dame feels like it can sit chilly and be what it wants to be, which is an independent, for as long as it can, then everything else, does it come to a halt or not? And so Oregon and Washington could be sitting there waiting forever, or they could decide we're going to jump in with the rest of the Pac-10 and try to make a go of it, or they could talk to the Big 12. They probably already have had some discussions there. It's Oregon and Washington, I guess you would describe as tweeners to a degree.
Okay.
Like you could say they're better than everyone else in the Pac-10 and probably everyone in the current Big 12, but are they considered attractive enough to go to the Big Ten right now? Maybe not. So, they're kind of caught in this limbo and waiting for Notre Dame to give signals.
Well, I got a serious question. What the hell happened to the alliance? That didn't even last a year. What happened?
No. Yeah. I mean, I would like to see when there is a next playoff meeting and George Kliavkoff comes in and shows Kevin Warren the stab wound in his back from when they took USC and UCLA there. I mean, the Alliance was a complete sham from the get-go. We should have known, and there was a lot of eye rolling at the time. Well, you think we did know, It's like, is there a signed contract? No, we looked each other in the eye. Oh, okay. Well, since college athletics is such an honorable profession, then yes, that's certainly good enough. So it was a joke, and it was exposed as a joke in less than a year.
Does Larry Scott, is this an all-time bad job? Does he get an F between you couldn't get on DirecTV and this is, listening to your podcast, your tag team partner, Dan Wetzel, just repeatedly said dumbasses. He's right. They had a seat at the table in the playoff. These conferences at least would have had the auto bid. They might not even get that now. That ship could have sailed.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, they who knows how much ultimately they've given away. But, the turning down of a free square in the playoff is just like mind-boggling in retrospect. They should have all been lobbying all along for a bigger playoff. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as they got one, they should have all signed up and said, yes, we're in, more bids, more security, more chances for us. And instead, I mean, they just almost like, it's like walking into a snake pit. I mean, they just walked right into this thing. So Larry Scott and George Kliavkoff, I think, has done a good job, but he was the one that got snookered by whoever in this last summer into saying, no, we don't want a bigger playoff, which again, just an incredible miscalculation.
Will the Big Ten and SEC then run this sport in terms of they will even control the playoff? And what will the new playoff look like? Will we even have 5 or 6 conferences by then?
Yeah, I mean, great question. They will undoubtedly run the sport, but then the unknown is, what does the playoff look like? How many are in? But it was posited to me, and the theory makes sense, is that when there is a restructured playoff, the Big Ten and the SEC and Fox and ESPN, walk into the room and say, this is how it's going to be. They don't say, what do you think it should be, Jim Phillips of the ACC? What do you think at the Big 12? What do you think? No. It's going to say, this is how it's going to work, and you're going to like it. We are getting most of the bids. We're going to get at least half. This is how we're going to set this up. We're going to go strength of schedule. We're not even involving a selection committee, and strength of schedule is going to favor us. Yep. And we're going to get 6 to 8 bids out of a 12-team playoff. I think everything will just line up now for more and more advantages and control for those two leagues.
That is unfortunate. So based on what you just said, are non-conference games going to go by the wayside? And these conferences will only play 12 games per year, and every game and every opponent is going to be inside their conference?
Super interesting question there. I think I know, like, the ACC has had some people broach that right now as a means to make them more attractive to their own TV partner, to ESPN, and say, hey, can we move the needle by playing 12 conference games or 12 P5 games at least, and dropping the FCS and the G5 games and that sort of thing. We'll see what, again, TV, the amount of money TV's paying out, the more money they pay out, the more influence they get, and they want good games. They don't want to broadcast, Alabama against Mercer. So, I think we're heading towards at least certainly more high-level matchups, which most of us want to see anyway. But, that's the direction we're going. Whether it's a full 12-game conference-only format or not, I don't know.
Pat Forde, Sports Illustrated, College Football Inquirer podcast as well. Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. If I had to ask you today, does the Pac-12 stay at 10, or does the Big 12 come in and steal some more teams, and that'll be the end of the Pac-12?
It's been interesting this week just talking to people about that. I think there were some people who covered the Big 12 who were maybe led to believe that it was serious talks and well down the road and moving fast, and the Big 12's ready to grab 4 to 6 schools from the Pac-12. I'm not sure the Pac-12's saying the same thing. I mean, people we have talked to said it's nowhere near imminent. There may be some people talking about it, but the Pac-10 feels like they've got a chance to hold it together. They may consider adding schools. They may look at like a San Diego State, an SMU, something like that. But I think they feel like they've got a chance. And we reported yesterday, Ross Dellerange and I at Sports Illustrated, actually on Wednesday, that there's a potential broadcast partnership between the ACC and Pac-12 and ESPN,
right,
that they think could be beneficial for all three parties and might be the kind of thing that solidifies the Pac-10 surviving schools as it is.
Right, with a title game out here too, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, that's possible. That's one of the scenarios, a title game in Las Vegas. And I would imagine it would be something that could also be movable. Like 1 year it's in Vegas, another year it's maybe closer to the ACC footprint or whatever. But I think that's one of the things that's under discussion.
Pat, you are the best.
Yes.
Thanks so much for the time today. We really appreciate that.
My pleasure, guys. Never dull.
No, it's not.
No.
Yep.
And follow him on Twitter @by Pat Forde. It's the College Football Inquirer podcast, and you can read him at Sports Illustrated.
He's an excellent point, too. Rivalry games gone. There you go.
That answer.
That would be, it's
is
revenue.
You have to put yourself in, imagine just any fan in the country, wherever you live and whoever your rival is, for generations.
Yeah. Well, the scenario. If Oregon and Washington were going to the Big Ten, there you go, Apple Cup.
Of course.
There you go, Civil War. A good point, too, about maybe a San Diego State, someone like that, and try to keep this together. But that's,
win-lose coming up next.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.